Today, we're going to go through the process of templating full height backsplash. I'm going to be templating this wall that is directly behind me. Now, one thing I want to cover before we even get into starting to make any marks or putting up any targets is each wall is its own page. So if I template this wall first, that is page 1. Template the next wall, that would be page 2. We set different planes because they are different planes. So we're going to focus on this wall here first. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a couple of our targets that come in our box. The first one is going to be our plane blocks. We are not going to use these to set the plane today. We are going to use these to help use them as marks. The next is going to be one of our T targets. This is going to be to mark the end of my countertop or cabinets in this case. I do want to cover, we really do not recommend that you shoot the full height before the countertop's in place, just to make sure that we're capturing a better, tighter fit. However, if you do want to template them at the cabinet level, you can. It's just going to take a little bit more of understanding what the material thickness is, but this is not going to be what we cover today. All we're going to cover today is just templating this nice and tight, and then you can do your own offsets as you feel fit for relief, or if you're going to template it off of the cabinetry and then assume material thickness. Now, we're going to use these two, but we also do have a laser level in this case, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more when we get there. So the first thing I'm going to do is set this T target on the end of my cabinet here, or the end of the countertop. That is going to be our marker so that we can use that to template where our end of our counter or cabinet is. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to use one of my plane blocks. Now, one thing about when we go to start templating something like this, I can slide my laser all the way up and I can try to see up and underneath, but it does start to get a little more tricky. So I like to shoot from the same position, same height, that we use any other time. Now, I'm going to set my laser in a position that's pretty much aimed right in between my cabinet opening, but at a comfortable distance and comfortable height. The next thing we're going to do is use one of our plane blocks. But what we're going to do a little different here is I'm going to take my plane block and I am going to hold it up and underneath my cabinetry, and I'm going to now make a mark on the wall. I'm going to make 2 marks on each edge. Now, why I'm doing this is when you start to template full height splash, laser stretch and reflection do become some of the issues that we run into. We can use the black shields to help eliminate the reflection, but sometimes it's easier to just shoot straight onto the wall at a known distance. So the block gives me that consistency. I can then measure from here to the line that I made on the wall, and then I can just offset my line over after I template it. So the next thing we're going to do for setup is we're going to take 2 of our plane blocks, and we're going to set these up to be able to shoot. On the plane blocks, they also have those same distance markers. So I don't have to mark the bottom. In this case, I'm going to set it with the arrow pointing up. To the first line from the bottom is a 1/2 inch. From the bottom to the second line is 2 inches. I'm going to set one of these to the right, and I'm going to set another one to the left, aiming back at the laser. Okay, now we're going to start the templating process. Now, when I set the plane in this case, I do not use the blocks. I want to shoot the plane directly on the wall that we're going to be gluing it to. So my points will be here, 1, to the right number 2, and up top is going to be number 3. We're just going to take that triangle and turn it up so that we have a nice vertical triangle. So point 1 on the left, point 2 on the right, and up at the top is going to be point number 3. Now I'm going to shoot all of this in 2 point for this one, and I'm going to switch to my wall color. I'm going to start on the bottom right. I'm going to shoot the 1/2 inch line and get it nice and centered on there. I'm going to shoot one to the right, one to the left to create that bottom line. I'm going to turn my distances off. And now I'm capturing the far left wall. This one I'm going to shoot directly on the wall, about 1 inch off of the wall to the back. Now I'm going to shoot across the underside. So I'm going to shoot those marks that I made. Now, why we make those with the block and not just using a tape measure is the blocks allow us to get a nice line that is a lot longer than what we would normally make if we were just measuring off of a tape measure. So that way I can see the line on both sides of the laser. Coming down the right side. And now I'm going to shoot the bottom. And in this case, I could shoot obviously 1 point perpendicular on the end, but I'm going to shoot across, and I'll explain here in a second, because I am going to use my laser level to help us draw our line at the end of our countertop. All right, now one last thing I'm going to do is capture line again. I'm going to switch to my cabinet color, and now I'm going to shoot the mounting screws on the outlet. I'm going to shoot the mounting screws. So I take my cover plate off, and I am going to now shoot from the bottom mounting screw to the top mounting screw. This is going to allow us to find the middle of the box. It's also going to show us how out of square or how out of level or plumb that box is sitting in the wall. But I'm really doing that specifically for the center of the outlet. That way, the center is always the center. Next thing I'm going to do is go through and do my offsets back out. So offset element. Now I'm going to come up here and check with my tape measure to see exactly how far away I am. So if I measure, and I would measure every single time, 2 9/16. So I'm going to double check 2 of them just to make sure I got the same distances, but I'm now going to go 2 space 9/16. I'm going to turn off keep original, and I can turn off revised style, and I'm now going to just offset everything that I shot at that known 2 9/16 distance. Now at the bottom I shot the 1/2 inch line. I'm going to offset that out a 1/2 inch. I am now to my tight fit. This is where I want to get to. Now I can fillet this whole thing together, and I can start checking measurements. I want to go one step further than this. I want to draw a perfectly plumb line all the way out there on that right side, and I want to get a nice line to work with. So I'm going to take my laser level, and I'm going to turn my laser level on and project level and plumb. Next thing I'm going to do is go back to capture a line, and I am now going to shoot the level and the plumb line with a 2-point line. So 1 to 2, and now I'm going to shoot the vertical from the bottom to the top. I'm going to go and fillet the 2 of them together. Now, we are humans and we are templating, obviously, a few different things. But when we template horizontal and vertical lines with using a laser level, we're shooting a laser on a laser. So to check for human error, the one thing I want to do is check that measurement right there. I want to be plus or minus 0.15 degrees. So 89.85 to 90.15 gives us that ability. I am on the low end. Me personally, I would probably reshoot this to try to check it. But for a demo purpose, I am still within what that minimum or maximum range would be. And basically, why I shoot this is now I can hit the rotate button, rotate to one of those lines, and now draw a line at a 1-point angle line off of that end. Now, I'm going to change my color of that so it comes in the way I want it to. And now, that is a perfectly plumb line out on the end of my countertop. So rather than rotating to the bottom and assuming the countertop is level, I have now the ability to shoot level and plumb right on a laser line and still get even more accuracy out of where my lines are when they're finished. I'm going to now go to fillet. We're going to fillet all those together. Now, when I do my outlet in this case, my outlet is extremely close to my cabinet right there. But what I'm going to do is I created a drop-in. Now, my drop-in in this case is a drop-in that we created specifically for test outlet center. Now, in this case here, what I created was a drop-in with the snap point in the dead center. Now, I use this in a lot of ways, but I'm going to set my setback to 0. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees here just to get it the way I want it to. but it gives me the ability to drop that in there, and now it's using the center of the box to lay the outlet. Now, I pre-described what my outlet was, but we can always get into this with you, or I can create a separate video if we need to on how to create that outlet, but it is a standard size outlet cutout for what it's worth here. Now, at this point, I should end up having all of my measurements. This is where I want to go to distance, dimensions. Now, when I go into distance dimensions, this is where I'm going to start really checking all of those measurements. So 59 and 5/8, dead on. But I want to check all the measurements, even down to the point where I can come in here and check my vertical at 19 and a quarter. In this case, from the cabinets up, dead on. So it's giving me the ability to use offset lines to be able to basically shoot directly onto them. It will help to increase a little bit of your accuracy so that laser stretch and reflection don't come into play. I hope this makes sense, and if you guys have any questions, please reach out.